It's noonish here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and 7 p.m. in Mykonos, Greece. And this is CarEdge Live for Monday, June 9th, with your hosts, me, Ray. I think am I on the wrong side of the screen? And
No?
and the young man in Greece himself, Mr. Zach Papadopoulos. How are you today, Zach?
I'm doing great. I'm here in Mykonos, Greece. I'll give a quick little,
Yeah, buddy. Yeah,
could be
I'm here
worse.
for sure, and it's cloudy and overcast and 63 degrees. But, other than that,
Feeling super lucky here for a wedding later this week. Incredible experience to share with my dear friend Steve and also coworker, which is fantastic. But Dad, first things first, today's show is brought to you by CarEdge.com. If we can help you out with anything, folks, check it out, CarEdge.com. And get excited this show, folks. Most of the speaking burden on my dad because my Wi-Fi may be a little bit shaky. Let's kick things off, Dad. There is a full-blown crisis going on in the auto industry right now. And it's not even me coming up with the headline. Auto companies in full panic over rare earths bottleneck. What is going on here?
Well, I did some background on this. And, there was a time when rare earth elements were available from a lot of different countries. And the United States produced quite a bit of them at one point in time.
Well, Pops, what are rare earths to begin with? Why don't we start there?
Well, there's 17 elements, oh God, what are they? Something noids and something, I don't know, and they're elements that, first of all, you couldn't pronounce them if your life depended on it, and second of all, if you want to go get them, apparently you have to go to China to get them.
What do they do, Dad? What do they do?
Well, they're necessary in electronic devices, computers, cell phones, EV motors, other types of motors. There are over
combustion engine motors as well.
Yeah, they're aircraft, everything. You ain't building the stuff that makes the world go without these rare earth elements and rare earth magnets. And I remember being in grade school and they showing us magnets, and you turn them around and one pushes the other away, or you turn them and they cling to each other, and it's like, whoever thought that this is going to be really something that the entire world depends on and can pretty much be controlled by one nation, and that one nation is China. They produce 90% of the world's rare earth elements that are needed to make the rare earth magnets. If they decide they ain't shipping them to you, you're hard pressed to scramble to find them from somewhere else. It's not like there's a multitude of suppliers of these elements. It's got the automobile industry in a full panic. We need this stuff to build the engines in our aircraft, in our Air
We're keeping
Force
it cars,
jets.
Dad. We're keeping it cars. And I hate to do this to you, but I got to come over the top a little bit. We just need to frame this up, which is that these rare earth materials, Dad, let's just focus on this.
Yes.
They're vital components to the production of both combustion engines and electrical vehicles. There you go.
Yes.
Okay, so just at the end of the day, for the purposes of this show, for what we're talking about, are there material impacts because of these this trade challenge? Absolutely.
Yes.
But for this show and for what we talk about, doesn't matter if it's an EV, doesn't matter if it's an ICE vehicle, doesn't matter if it's hybrid. These rare earth elements are necessary to produce components that ultimately are vital for these vehicles. This is at the same exact time that we have a 70% drop in vehicle shipments globally. Actually, these vehicles being moved around. So it's a very interesting time for the auto industry. And the reason that you have a full panic here from these auto companies being the right term, it's manufacturers as well as suppliers, because they know that if we lose this one piece, which to your point earlier in the show, Dad, China accounts for 97% of the world's production of these materials. You can see it right there. If we lose 97% of the production, this whole industry is screwed for a long period of time. So it's not us coming up with the headlines. there's a full panic going on in the auto industry because of this right now.
Oh, absolutely. It is. This could be more significant than the pandemic, more significant than the chip shortage, the microchip shortage that was a byproduct of the pandemic, when automobile manufacturers canceled their chip orders, their microchip orders from the microchip manufacturers, because they weren't sure how long their plants were going to be shut down. So they canceled their orders when they realized they weren't going to be shut down as long as they thought they might be, and they wanted to re-up their orders. Well, the chip manufacturer said, well, we already gave those production spots to different orders. We can't just now cancel those and turn around and start building the chips you need for automobiles. So we had that huge challenge. This could be bigger than that, okay? Because this impacts everybody. It impacts suppliers. It impacts the automobile manufacturers themselves. It impacts trade, global trade. So this could be huge. We lost during the pandemic, and with the microchip shortage, we lost somewhere between 10 and 15 million vehicles that were scheduled to be built that were not built. And we are feeling the impacts of that today because there are fewer cars available, used cars, because there were 10 or 15 million that weren't built that could have been sold. And that has forced prices to go up. If the rare earth elements become the next sad chapter in automotive, prices will go up again. Supplies will be minimal at best. If we thought there was an issue during the microchip shortage, this will be even worse. This will impact every manufacturer worldwide when it comes to automotive.
And there are a few manufacturers who are already taking steps to try and make engines without these components. Automakers, including General Motors and BMW, and a major supplier such as ZF and Berg-Warner, some major suppliers, are working on motors with low to zero rare earth content, but few have managed to scale production enough to cut costs. The EU has launched initiatives, including the Critical Raw Materials Act, to boost European rare earth sources, but it has not moved fast enough. And that's coming from, a person that gets paid a lot of money to think and use big speak. I mean, the story just goes on, Dad, which is this is going to be a material impact on the auto industry. And it doesn't matter if you're BMW, Ford, it doesn't matter who you are. Yes. This is a non-discriminatory, it doesn't matter. It's going to impact your business. And I think the importance on this show is to then talk about, this is something for the CarEdge community to be out in front of. We talk and try and prognosticate on car prices all the time. Well, hey guys, if production is going to get shut down because they don't have rare earth materials, could be a good indicator for what's going to happen to car prices as supply plummets. And demand is obviously weakening a little bit with prices so high, but still, I mean, if supply plummets in the way that we think it might, and that other story that we're going to talk about, 70% fewer vehicles actually being imported, I mean, you've got a pretty bad recipe getting set up here.
Well, it's not a recipe that's going to be in a bestseller cookbook, I'll tell you that. And it is a recipe that impacts every manufacturer except, I'm guessing, those who manufacture in China. Okay? Yeah. Because they're not going to turn themselves down when it comes to being able to get their hands on these rare earth magnets and elements that they need. So it is the rest of the world, and when it comes to automobile manufacturing, that is entirely dependent upon a handful of bureaucrats in China who determine who gets a license to export these rare earth materials. It's really kind of crazy. The ministry that oversees this in China, it was 30 people with 3 that could sign off on any of it. They've doubled the staff to 60, but there's hundreds of suppliers trying to get licensed to be able to get their hands on these materials. This could take God knows how long, and I'm just guessing, but how much does it cost to bribe an official in a ministry in China to get your license moved up? I mean, I don't know how many yuan it would take, but I'm guessing it would be a lot. And it is. This doesn't bode well. Whether you're an automobile manufacturer in India or South America or North America or Europe, you are entirely dependent upon getting these materials from basically one country. And if they turn off the spigot, what's that old saying? You're SOL.
We're going to switch gears here, but before we do, the last line in the story, the co-founder, Andy Leland of a supply chain specialist company, SC Insights, said any of those elements could be used as leverage by China. Quote, "This is just a warning shot." He said, all right, Dad, let's turn our attention to that other story, which is tariff impacts begin as vehicle shipping volume drops by more than 70%. Maritime shipping volume of automobiles has declined 72% in May compared with the same month last year. Think about that for a second. Dad. Many vehicles make their way into the United States of America via cargo ship, and the volume of vehicles making their way to America via cargo ship declined 72, not 7.2, 72.3% year over year. When I saw this, I said, holy cow.
Holy cow. What about the port workers that are responsible for this? Do you think, I'm just spitballing here, but if the yard where these vehicles are unloaded, the port where they're unloaded, if the volume drops by 72.3%, do you think the work staff stays at the same level it was at before that happened? I'm guessing probably not.
Let's keep this about cars, Dad.
Well, it is, but it's but there. We want to make it about cars, but we often forget about the ancillary impact of all these actions. So it's we know there's an affordability crisis when it comes to cars. If the people that unload these cars are suddenly out of work, you have less people that might have the ability to be able to buy a car. Hence, you have 72.3% less cars coming in.
I think that's the primary. So I appreciate you wanting to talk about the secondary and maybe tertiary, the ancillary runs, but the primary here, Dad, is 72% fewer vehicles made it into the United States. So I think the beginning story here is a supply side story, which is there's 72% fewer imported vehicles. And then maybe the secondary story is if there are going to be downstream layoffs as an effect of this, then sure, maybe those people are now out of the market to buy a car. But like a 10x or 20 or 100x bigger story to me is a 72% decline in inventory coming into the United States.
But that's imported inventory coming from mostly Japan. Okay. That doesn't mean
like mostly Japan brands have a lot of inventory to begin with.
Well, they're rapidly running out of it, but of especially their pre-tariff inventory. But that doesn't mean that they haven't shifted some of that production away from Japan and to their manufacturing and assembly facilities here in the States. So we're not going to see necessarily a 72.3% decline in available inventory. We will see some decline in available inventory, but it's not going to be 70%. They will figure out how to build more of those vehicles in the United States or maybe Mexico or Canada. But it's a huge issue because it will impact on-hand inventory. And as we know, as on-hand inventory declines, incentives from the manufacturers to move the remaining inventory that they have usually declines as well, because they're not as motivated to sell out completely because they can't replace anything. It will bring back a similar situation to what we saw during the microchip shortage, where people had that fear of missing out and suddenly said, I don't care what I have to pay to get a car. Something they should have never said. And the dealers helped them with that, saying, not a problem at all. We're going to ask you to pay way too much. And human nature is, you probably will. And we could see a return to that, which, if we do, means people are going to be paying way too much for cars again. They're going to be, I don't know, if we think 84 and 96 month loans are becoming more and more popular, well, then the 108 month and 120 month loans won't be too far behind, because things will just get way out of hand for obviously the vast majority of people out there.
I do think the too long didn't read, for those of you who just want to cut to the chase, is this from Jorge. Great, car prices are going up again. That is what every indicator shows right now. And it was only like 2 weeks ago, Dad, that you and I came on here and talked about how we actually saw some signs that new car pricing could get better, used car pricing could get better. But I think now that these new revelations, both in terms of the rare earths component and also obviously what we're seeing here with the latest shipping data, which the shipping data goes so far as to impact parts and accessories as well. The tracking that we have, this information, auto parts and accessories have seen almost a 15% decline year over year as well. So, and this includes the volume for bodies, including cabs for specific motor vehicles, saw an 18% increase. So
no, those went up 18%.
Yeah. So it's interesting. There's like some bright spots here, but it's not in fully produced vehicles and in parts and accessories. So long story short, there's a lot of indicators here that suggest new car prices are going up. And typically what happens when new car prices go up, there's there's demand increase for used cars, which drives the price of used cars up. Back-to-back stories here that I think are really, as a 1-2 punch, putting a lot of pressure on the auto industry. And obviously, to your point, Ted, there are all those secondary, tertiary, downstream impacts that these decisions have. And we know there are a lot of people who can't afford a vehicle. And we just did some research back on the CarEdge website that talked about how $50,000 new cars are right around the corner.
Well, and I didn't check automotive news today, but I believe it was on Saturday that the average advertised asking price for new cars in the United States was in excess. On Saturday, it was in excess of $50,000. So, but
there you go,
$49,798. That is pretty damn close to $50,000 as an average market price. That's crazy. We showed a deal of the day last week for a Toyota Sienna, and we're able to get the customer $2,700 off. And all anybody concentrated on was the fact that with tax and license, the whole thing was like $47,000, $48,000. And the monthly payment was astronomical. So if the average marketed price is $50,000, the monthly allotment you're going to have to make in order to be able to pay for that is going to be much, much, much higher than what most people would be comfortable with. Definitely. I can tell you from when I did this for the longest period of time, we used to, when I was with Acura, and the cars were at that time between $30,000 and maybe $50,000, and the number of people that would come in, and they'd want a $35,000 car, and they didn't want to put down a lot of money, and they wanted a payment of no more than, say, I don't know, $300 a month for 60 months. Well, if there was no interest and it was just $300 a month for 60 months, that's $18,000. Well, where's the other at $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 coming from? So if the comfortable payment range, for most people was $300 to $350, trust me when I tell you, the comfortable payment range for people today isn't $750 and higher. Okay, they would anticipate going in and saying, "Gee, I think I can afford $500 a month for that Sienna," and then they find out it's $900 a month. that negatively impacts what people can do. And if the
Totally.
prices go up even further, it makes it even more difficult. And I don't know what the solution is. I can't sit here and go, oh well, we need to do this, this, this. But it, it seems to me that if you want to be a mass market brand, you have to figure out how you can appeal to the mass in the mass market brand as opposed to the few. And right now,
yeah, and I was just going to say that it certainly seems like, based on the stories we led with today, these are more indicators of price challenges for consumers, and at this point, just price challenges for the whole auto industry. Thus, the reason why I didn't even have to come up with today's title. It was in the automotive news headline for me. Full panic. I'll pull that back up on the screen. Okay, I didn't have to come up with this. Automotive news right there. In full panic over the bottleneck, that's going to drive prices up. The decline in imported vehicles, that's going to drive prices up. Dad, here's another indicator of how bad things are getting in the auto industry, and potentially what's in store for maybe more auto parts suppliers as well as automakers.
yes,
Nissan and Stellantis supplier Marielli considers filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in U.S. report says. Think about this for a moment. We have a parts supplier,
yes,
and they are potentially going to file for bankruptcy.
yes.
Think about this. What brands do they represent? The two that we've been saying for the longest time are struggling the most.
Yes.
Right?
And you know what's really funny? Marielli is a combination of two part suppliers that were in great financial difficulty. One was Calsonic, which was part of Nissan. They did their air conditioners and stuff. And I forget the other. It was part of Fiat. And a private equity firm came in and said, okay, we'll buy them both and put them together and let's see what happens. And for a period of time, it was pretty successful. And now it's not. They're drowning in debt. They need to renegotiate their debt structure. They need to find more cash on hand. And these are, this was a combination of two really weak part suppliers becoming, well, one really big weak part supplier. And now they're struggling even more. It doesn't bode well for Nissan or Stellantis, because they can't. I mean, obviously, Marielli is going to remain in business through bankruptcy.
They employ 45,000 people nationwide. They're a massive company.
It's probably worldwide, I would think.
Worldwide.
Yeah, and so they'll be able to continue through bankruptcy. But could there be interruptions? Could there be price increases that well, neither Nissan nor Stellantis can really afford at the moment? Who knows?
Did you see former Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares came out and said his prediction for the future of the auto industry is more mergers? And so I think these restructuring moments are opportunities for mergers, both at the supplier level. You just mentioned it. This was just a merger of two failed parts suppliers before, right? Are they going to get merged with someone else? And then does that start to happen at the automaker level? And that's where I would not be surprised at all. We saw talks between Nissan and Honda fall apart last year, and supposedly Toyota was contemplating coming in there, but those talks fell apart as well. I think the future, and this is my opinion as well as the opinion of Carlos Tavares, who is the former CEO of Stellantis, there's going to be consolidation and mergers in the auto industry and potentially fewer choices for consumers.
I can't see how there isn't. Okay.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, there's too many brands that are struggling. That doesn't mean they can't survive, but the way they survive might not be in the way that we know them today. I mean, one of the reasons that I think Nissan struggles, and I think Mercedes struggles to a degree, and even BMW to a degree, is that they feel a need to have a vehicle in every niche category. And it's like, I don't know, do we really need to produce 27 different vehicle types?
I mean, look at what's going on at Stellantis. Jeep has one of the most convoluted and complex lineups in the auto industry, the ways you can customize those vehicles, and they're struggling mightily. We did see, obviously, the new CEO of Ram come in, Tim Kuniskis, and bring back the V8. So maybe we'll see consolidation at the brand level of like We're just going to get simpler product lines. We're going to go back to our roots. I want to pull up one thing from Igor, though.
Sure.
He had sent us some messages. 9 supplying factories in the EU have closed recently as well. So this is international. This is happening globally.
And I was having a conversation with somebody here at the condo yesterday, and he was talking to me about, my sister was talking to a friend of hers that lives in Peachtree, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and the lady said to my sister, she says, "Is there someone in your building that's on YouTube?" And Michael said to me, he says, "My God," he says, "you're known all over." I said, "People know us in the UK, in Greece, in Australia. The world's a small place when it comes to the internet. Might not be so small outside of the internet, but all of this ties in together. It is a global automotive marketplace, and whatever impacts Europe impacts the United States eventually. Whatever impacts China impacts the United States. It all is interconnected at this point. And so, yes, somewhere along the line, there will be mergers. Somewhere along the line, some of the manufacturers are going to say, maybe we only need to have 4 models or 5 models. Maybe one day.
Dad, look at Tesla. They only have, what is it? They've got the 3, they've got the Y. Do they still have the S and the X? Like maybe, but not mass produced. And they've got the Cybertruck.
It's like, when you think about BMW, do you really need a 1 series, a 2 series, 3 series, a 4 series, 5 series, 6 series, 7 series, and an 8 series? Oh, and then let's talk about, our SUVs. How do you need to have a car that starts like a Matchbox car and works its way up to a giant ass limousine? Do you really need to have a footprint in every one of those little itty bitty markets? And I think when you look at Nissan, a company that's really struggling, do they really need to offer as many models as they do? They should just, in my opinion, they should narrow it down to their core that sells and figure out how to sell even more of those and create even more interest in those.
So that's what's cool about this moment. And I'm going to say cool because I think it's an opportunity for the auto industry to reset. The 3 stories we've covered today are an automotive supplier that supplies Nissan and Stellantis, potentially filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We've got impacts on imported vehicles, a shipping volume decrease of vehicles by 70% to the United States for the month of May, year over year. And we have auto companies, quote, in full panic over rare earths bottleneck. If there was ever a time for change in the auto industry, and think about it, pre-pandemic, pre-chip shortage, that was status quo for the auto industry. Like everything was normal. And then post chip shortage, obviously we saw a whole different market, whole different way of operating. We could be on the precipice here of a whole different way of operating again. Our initial hypothesis here is that it's going to be net negative for consumers because it'll negatively impact supply for the foreseeable future. But maybe this is a moment in time where manufacturers look to the words that you're sharing, and it's going to take years for the model make shift to change. But it could be, Dad, 5 years from now, you do see manufacturers like Nissan only producing 5 vehicles.
It seems to me, in my simple brain, and let's face it, a brain doesn't get simpler than mine, but it just seems to me that you cater to your primary market, and if your primary market is the Rogue and the Pathfinder, and I don't even know what else they have into the Sentra but you forget like the Kicks and the Rocks and whatever, I don't know, whatever the hell they call the different vehicles. It's like, let's just concentrate on the markets that sell well and make us money and get out of dabbling in all the other little vehicles. There will be ultimately niche vehicle manufacturers for whatever Nissan decides not to build in the future, or whatever Stellantis decides not to build in the future, or any of the other major manufacturers, whatever they decide not to build in the future. One of the problems that we have, especially here in the United States, is we're the richest country on earth. So we are afforded more opportunities for things to buy than anywhere else on the planet. We have more options available to us. We have more vehicle choice. We have more choice than anybody really needs to have. When the Model T first came out, it was pretty simple. What shade of black would you like? And this is the way it's built. This is the only way, and people were happy with it. And we've grown to where we now have way too many options and way too many choices. And perhaps we can learn, and the manufacturers can learn, that in reality, as a people, we don't need that many choices.
You and I both know why that happens and why that exists. It's because it's more profitable to make more high content vehicles. Let's not go too far down that path, Dad. We're going to come to the chat here in just a moment. But before we do, for those of you that are unfamiliar, back on CarEdge.com, you can click right here on dealer invoice price, and you can get your hands on dealer invoice pricing for any new vehicle. If you click on skip the dealership, you'll be taken to our car buying services. And CarEdge.com/save if you're in the market for auto insurance. And quite frankly, everyone should be getting competitive quotes on auto insurance and home insurance and renter's insurance, all that fun stuff every so often, like every quarter or 6 months. Check those all out back on CarEdge.com, as well as everything free under research. Click on that right there. Dad, let's come to the chat here.
Yes.
Let me pull it up really quickly. Earlier in the show, Joe said, thank you, Joe. Ray, Brandon says wholesale prices plummeted this week. And the latest data from Cox Automotive also shows wholesale prices for used cars declined last week, which is a good story, something we want to hear more of. But I don't necessarily think that can be sustained if everything we think is going to happen on the new car side happens over the next couple of weeks and months.
We also have some commentary from Igor, who was at the sale on Friday, the sale that he favors on Friday, and he saw certain segments where prices were going up again. So it is, one of the things that two things can be true at the same time. The vehicles that Brandon is buying, maybe the prices are plummeting. The 2, 3, and 4-year-old low mileage, high quality used cars in certain segments, those prices could be going up and are going up in some cases. So it's not universal. But if there is this shortage of vehicles in the future, it will become universal again, because when we lost the production of new cars that were scheduled to be built, that is when we saw used car values, both on a wholesale and a retail level, skyrocket. I mean, just off the charts. Nobody had ever seen anything like it before. And that's because new car inventories were averaging about 900,000 new car availability every month, when it had been 3.5 million. Yep. So when that shortage happened, prices spiked. If the rare earth elements, rare earth magnets, rare earth minerals situation continues to where all that stuff is constrained, where it can significantly impact production by causing manufacturers to produce millions of less vehicles than they had intended, that is going to inversely or conversely impact the price of used cars. They're going to go up again. I hope I am wrong, but as we like to say, reading between the tea leaves, it would just seem to indicate that if the rare earths panic for those materials is real, then that's the path we're headed towards. So, we could see a brief downturn for the next couple of weeks. Then we might see a spike up again. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
All I know is we will be staying on top of it. Dad, we had a question come in from Saved by Zero. Is there any way on CarEdge to find the prices that specific models and trims actually sold for? We do have a resource for that. It's CarEdge Verified Deals. If you go to CarEdge.com, click on Research right there, and then click on See What Others Paid. That'll take you to our resource of verified prices, whether it was a deal that was community submitted. So you can see here, This is a deal done in Minnesota for a new 2025 GMC Sierra 1500. And you can see the full breakdown of information there. Or I can get rid of community submitted, and we can just look at the concierge deals. So these are the deals that our team completes day in and day out on behalf of our concierge and negotiation expert services. And holy cow, there's 70 pages of just concierge deals that you can look at there. So again, we do have a resource for verified car deals. That's back on CarEdge.com. And then click on research, see what others paid, and that pops right up. Dad, can we continue on in the show to a few other segments? You game for that?
Sure. Yeah. I got. The good news for you is I got nowhere to be, and it's nighttime where you are, or soon to be. It's beautiful there. What's the weather like?
It's 75 degrees.
Oh, stop.
Windy but beautiful. No, it's like low humidity. Let's go, Dad. Favorite ad lib of the show, pretty please.
Really? You have got to be kidding me.
All right, y'all. I'm posting more over on X. Please follow me at Shepska and at my CarEdge. This is why people hate buying cars from car dealers. 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the spray and bed liner add-on for $799. The Jeep Grand Cherokee isn't a truck. Make it make sense. Not to mention the dealer also added on tint and nitro for $899, Lux Care for $1399, and the dock fee for a very simple $899. But then there's also an admin fee for $249.50. Make it make sense, Dad. How do we have a spray and bed liner for $799 on a Jeep Grand Cherokee L?
That would seem difficult. That would seem almost as reasonable as the maintenance programs that some dealerships charge on EVs, so that their customers will be entitled to their free oil changes. EVs don't have oil for oil changes. Yeah, this is why people hate buying cars from dealers. Because dealers do it. I'll put it out there as plainly as I can. Dealers do it to themselves. Okay. I catch guff all the time from dealers who say, Ray, you never say anything nice about us. Okay. You tell me why I should. When we see stuff like this, and we see stuff like this on a daily basis, multiple times on a daily basis, how do you expect me to say nice things about how most dealerships operate? How do you have a spray-in bed liner in a vehicle that doesn't even have a bed? Okay, it makes no sense. How do you charge $1,995 in maintenance so people can get their free oil changes in their EV? There are just certain things that dealerships do that I am sure if you said to them, oh no, we're well loved because we do everything above board. And then if you were to point this crap out to them, you go, this is above board, the spray-in bed liner for a Jeep Cherokee, the Lux Care for $1399, and the premium tint and nitro fill. The nitrogen's like 78% of air is nitrogen. And yes, if you're running Formula One, if you're running on the Grand Prix circuit, if you're running NASCAR, you want nitrogen in your tires because it gives a better seal, and the tires won't lose pressure as quickly. For the everyday person driving a car, it does nothing. Nothing. It is as bad as the dock fee. You get nothing for it. And in many dealerships, they probably just take the black valve cover caps off and replace them with the green ones to indicate that there's nitrogen in the tires. This is why it is so hard for me not to bash dealers. You make a business decision every morning when you run a dealership. And that business decision is, do I want to be honest, fair, and transparent? Or do I just want to do things the way everybody seems to have been doing them forever, which is to lie, cheat, and steal? I would hope that when you wake up in the morning, you go, I don't feel like lying, cheating, and stealing today. Let me try honest, fair, and transparent.
My thinking here is that this is maybe just laziness, but I don't know. When you look at the whole package, obviously they're doing all sorts of add-ons, not to mention the fact that the doc fee, when added with the admin fee, is well over in excess of $1,100. That's absolutely.
But here's the really good news, Zach. Okay, you can look at this and forgetting all the BS, which is hard to do. You're looking at somebody. They're looking to finance. If they put nothing down, $53,800, almost $54,000. So with $3,000 down, they're looking to finance 51 grand. And it's 72 months. Your comfortable monthly payment, excluding insurance, okay, and maintenance and depreciation, $921 a month. $921 a month. How many people out there can afford that? How do you afford $1,000 a month for your car? I don't know, $2,500 a month for your housing. How do people live? I mean, just
as a friendly reminder.
What?
As a friendly reminder, we have a guide that's all about the 10% rule on vehicle affordability. So go check that out before you make your next vehicle purchase. Dad, want to come back here to the chat, and then we actually need to continue this segment on. But before we do, earlier in the show from Matthew, Ray, will they still make the apple cider after BK? What does BK stand for there?
He's talking about the Marinelli apple, sparkling apple cider or sparkling. Yeah. Your mother and I used to drink that. We used to keep bottles of that in the fridge.
And from Rich here. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate the out the door price. Never makes it out the door. Yeah, unfortunately, that happens all the time. Hey, we've got a question here, Dad, from Sean that I think is important. We'll pull the worksheet back up. What is this $578 in non-tax fee? Another doc fee? No, those would be the state registration, title tags, things like that.
Yes,
because they're non-taxed. Those are not dealer added-on fees. Those are, you could ask them for a breakdown and they would show you. Those are the registration, title tags, etc.
Yes.
And we know that because they're non-tax. That's why if it's taxable, it's negotiable.
Yeah, you can't tax registration fees, title fees. Those are non-taxable fees.
Ready for the next one?
Okie dokie.
California car buyers face a 600% higher fee under a bill the Senate just passed. California is a haven for car shoppers in the sense that the dealer doc fee is capped at $85.
Yes.
Well, Dad, the California Senate just voted on a bill or on legislation that would increase the dealer doc fee up to $500 on vehicle purchases. Where was it here? It was they could do 1% of the vehicle's value or up to $500. So that's what's potentially coming for California car shoppers.
And justice keep me honest here, but I'm pretty sure California car shoppers pay way too much in all other fees to begin with. So to have the doc fee go from $85 to a maximum of $500, you're just saying to a dealer, we're going to allow you to make an extra $415 per vehicle sold, new or used, and the customer gets nothing for that. Nothing. Okay, because the doc fee it's a mystery fee that dealers came up with to say we need to figure out ways to make extra profit. So we'll have a doc fee. We saw in that last deal it was a $899 fee plus an admin fee. So I mean, there's all kinds of the Senate in California is saying to dealers, probably because the dealer association lobbied pretty hard for this bill, we're going to allow you the opportunity to get an extra $415 profit per car sold. Oh, and don't forget to donate to my campaign.
And here's that section I was looking for. Yet on Tuesday, just one senator voted against Senate Bill 791 that would raise the fees car dealers can charge to process documents. So that's what the doc fee is for, guys. It's a justification to process documents, yet it's going up 600%, up $450 from the current cap of $85 for a new or used vehicle. The proposal would allow dealers to charge as much as 1% of a vehicle's purchase price, up to $500. And obviously, you can see there the average listing price for a new vehicle is above $48,000. This is a big deal. California is massive, massive state, and they had been with the lowest cap at $85 in the country. We'll let you know if this bill passes fully in the state of California, but that's a huge deal. 600% increase in the dock fee is non-trivial.
Well, it's yachts are more expensive, I guess, out there, and so dealers are going to need more money.
I think dock fees exist because of information symmetry. The more information consumers got to level the playing field and get better car deals, then the dealership had to find other places to make money. And the reason I bring this up, Dad, is because even the OEMs are in on this game. That's why the invoice is no longer just the invoice. It's the invoice plus the holdback, plus the floor plan, plus the advertising assistance. Like the playing field got leveled a little bit, and it feels like the dock fee is one of those areas of the car deal where the dealership's still going to preserve making money because the consumer's better at getting a better deal.
Well, absolutely, and yeah, the what the manufacturers have done, which is similar to the dock fee for the dealer, is the manufacturers keep adjusting the processing and destination charges. Where those have become an extra profit center for many of the manufacturers.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple vehicles, full-size trucks that have destination fees that show up on the Monroney label, on the window sticker, in excess of $2,000.
Yes.
So you're a Ram dealer, within 100 miles of final production of a vehicle, you're still paying $2,000 just like the customer is on the MSRP. So that's the game that they play there. And then obviously the dealership plays the dock fee game. So anyway, wanted to share that as a really, you've got to be kidding me. Can we talk about some good news, Dad, the deal of the day?
Yeah, I'd like that. Yes, let's do the deal of the day.
Deal of the day comes by way of Jerry on the CarEdge team. $7,000 plus discount off of MSRP on a brand new 2025 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy. What an awesome deal secured with CarEdge Concierge. And Dad, this was for a deaf customer. And it's incredible that here at CarEdge, we're able to support individuals of all shapes, sizes. If you have a disability, it does not matter to us. We want to support you. And you can see here, MSRP on the vehicle, $53,334, discount of $6,019, and then an additional $1,000 manufacturer rebate. You're getting over $7,000 off.
Wow. Wow. Nicely done, Jerry. Wow. That is so cool. That is nice to see. So that's what 10% would have been 5,300. So that's what, about 11% off of MSRP plus the $1,000 rebate. That's pretty damn good. And I know the comments are going to be, oh, well, that's no deal. You're still paying way too much for the car. Okay, whatever. You know what? You go into the dealership, you pay them $7,000 more. Okay. If that'll make you feel better. That great job, Jerry. God bless you for that. That is a hell of an effort on your part to make that happen for anybody.
Another note over on X, I shared this with you in our family group chat, Dad, and I'll share it here with our community. So I'm in Mykonos, Greece right now, so that's why my Wi-Fi is a little spotty and all that fun stuff. And while I was out at lunch this afternoon, a gentleman named Max recognized me, Dad, and thanked us for our YouTube videos, which have helped him in the car buying process. He was also surrounded by his family and kids, and I think his kids were really embarrassed. So that was very cute because I know I certainly would have been embarrassed if my dad did that. But thank you to everyone who supports me and my dad. I was literally at like this beach eating lunch, Dad, and a man in Mykonos, Greece comes over and thanks us for the work that we do. What a cool moment.
Yeah, as I said to you, you're pretty effing famous.
Wild, man. I mean, that was unexpected to say the least.
Yes. You can't go anywhere with I could see you like up in the mountains somewhere, and you come across like a wild bear or something, and the bear takes a look and he goes, I know you. You're Zach from CarEdge. I'm going to leave you alone. You do a lot of good for people.
I think it would do the same for you. I don't think you'd be on the mountain. It's the only difference, but
yeah, he'd have to find me at the beach. That bear.
Just such a cool moment.
No, that really is. It is that is another indication of just how small the world is with the internet. Now you take the internet away, and it's still a pretty damn big place.
The world feels pretty big when I'm here in Mykonos, Dad. There's just a whole, I mean, I've never seen a landscape quite like this before. It's really pretty remarkable. Yeah.
Well, I am so glad you're there, and hopefully you're having a good time, and Steve and Rachel are excited, and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's come
Good.
here, Dad, from Chris. Thank you, Chris. What's the consensus on the new Slate trucks? I don't know much about the Slate trucks, to be
What's
honest.
the consensus? Is I don't know. We saw some pictures. We saw that Jeff Bezos is going to invest money, allegedly, and that's it. That's all we know at the moment. Now, it's going to be 20 grand or 27 grand, and then with the government. What's the word I'm looking for?
Subsidies?
Subsidy. It'll net down to like 20 grand. Of course, by the time they actually produce the truck, there won't be any government subsidies, and it won't matter because it won't be a $27,000 truck at that point either. Because don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the Ford Lightning was going to be $39,000. It's nowhere near. The Cybertruck was going to be $39,000. It's nowhere near. So whatever they said when they showed pictures of this, ain't none of that happening at those price points. That's all I'm going to say, in my opinion.
We've got here, Dad, a friendly reminder that
Yes.
CarEdge.com exists to serve you. Whether you're wanting to shop, whether you're going to shop a new vehicle, a used vehicle, do some vehicle research, track your vehicle's value, see what it's currently worth, save some money on auto insurance. We have the warranty piece as well. There's dealer invoice prices, skipping the dealership with our car buying services, insurance. Please, y'all, check out CarEdge.com. And I bring this up in part because just last week,
Yes.
an interesting company named Homa, Dad, raised $17 million. And you actually sent this to me, announcing our $17 million Series A funding led by Andreessen Horowitz, which was like a really big venture capital firm.
Yes.
They are building AI agents for car dealers. Now, I'm not saying here at CarEdge we're building AI agents for car buyers, not by any stretch. But we got to make sure we continue to build some car buying tools, because if y'all are going to be going to battle against AI agents now, we got to be one step ahead of them. So there's a lot of money being poured into making car dealerships more effective, more profitable. We're obviously here at CarEdge to serve you, our community, and all these consumers who trust us. So please check out and support and share CarEdge as we see these major announcements. $17 million. That's a lot of money, man. A lot of money for car dealership AI agents. Who knows what that means? But we got to be on the other side of that, making sure that consumers are in good shape as they navigate the car buying process.
Yeah, we got to figure out how you get into their into that AI agent's operating system and shut them down.
No, not shut them down. Just an interesting observation from last week that, this industry is going to become, I don't know, even more tech enabled. And I think that
less dependent on real human beings.
Pros and cons for consumers. We want to make sure we're staying in lockstep with that for consumers. From Michael, thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it. Before you know it, Zach will be saying to people, "Don't you know who I am?" Joking. I hope I never have that big of an ego. I will say, meeting Max, I like everyone we've ever met in real life. Ask them their name, ask them where they live, ask them how we helped, if they have feedback. So I love how humbling and what a privilege to meet the people that we've been engaging with virtually for 5 years. It's so cool.
And where is Max from?
I didn't ask him actually. He was sharing with me where he would just come from, which was he was in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. So I didn't actually get where he was from. I got where he was coming from, which was earlier in his vacation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's an absolute privilege when somebody recognizes you and they, like Michael says to me, he says, "Yeah, I see Ray every day. He's a pretty normal fella." We try to help as best we can. Some days we do it better than others, but we're real human beings that are just here to help. We get a kick out of helping people. Nothing wrong with that.
So our ask to help us out is please share this video, subscribe to the channel, check out the website caredge.com, and turn a friend on to our humble business. We would appreciate that. And
yes,
one final view. I mean, that's not bad.
Now you're just showing off.
It's not bad.
How's
all right,
the beach?
Dad, beach is beautiful. Beach is beautiful. Yeah. Okay. I went for a run this morning, though, Dad. That was a mistake. You want to see?
Yeah. Why was it a mistake?
It's hilly, man. It's freaking hilly.
Well, it's just getting you ready for your Ironman in Austria.
This is true. So I ran this morning. So I'll share some of the, this is where I was running. It was very beautiful.
Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, it was gorgeous. I took this video.
I could walk slowly along there. That would be nice.
The issue is, there you go, me. That's
Yeah.
literally where I ran. Super gorgeous.
Yeah.
The issue is that I actually don't think you could walk here.
Really?
So this run, Dad, was 8 miles.
Yeah.
But I gained over 1,000 feet of elevation.
Whoa.
It was hard.
Yeah, I would think it would be.
There was this 1 mile. Where was it here? Yeah, there was 1 mile. I gained 281 feet of elevation in 1 mile.
It wasn't like when you went down that hill and you went down 266 feet.
No, that was so much easier.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was hard, man. It was hard. Like, I actually am not sure you could walk up some of these hills. They were that, like, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll stay away.
We could get you to the flat parts, is all I'm saying.
They got a flat part?
They got some flat parts. Okay, y'all, we'll be back tomorrow. 12 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m., whatever time zone I'm in currently. And I'll be here all week until Friday. Friday, I'm going to need some coverage because that's actually the day of the wedding. And I do not think I can sneak away during the wedding to
do it during the wedding. Let's show them saying I do.
I'll see if there's consent.
Why don't we broadcast the wedding live?
I'll ask Steve and Rachel if they want that, if they consent to it. I think the answer will be no. I hope the answer is no.
Yeah.
But if it's yes,
that'd be great,
I will happily write off my airfare if they'll let me do that. But I don't think they will. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to be able to. But I'll ask.
Okay, not a problem. Well, then I'll see you tomorrow. You have a great evening, young man. And say hi to all my friends over there that I don't have. And I look forward to doing this again with you tomorrow.
Can't wait, Ted. Much love.
Yep, same here.